common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Charlie Gasparino, that is his new book. Ford is surrendering. Many other companies are surrendering. Are all these people reading your book, Charlie?
Well, if they read my book, they probably would know that all these companies, when you're talking about, like, all these companies are now, sort of scrubbing their DEI policies of any hint of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They would know that if they keep doing that and discriminating against people on race, sex, or gender, they might be sued. And there's a good chance they're going to lose based on recent Supreme Court precedent. So maybe they did read it. If they haven't, I'll send it to any corporate executive that wants to know how horrible it is to go woke and how dumb it is and how legally perilous it is. And I'll sign it. I'll sign it for them. I'll sign it and I'll personally deliver it to them. How's that, John?
Sounds good. Vito Fasella?
Hey, Charlie, it's Vito Fasella.
Hey, Vito.
How you doing? Of all the things that have been happening with the whole woke issues and DEI, in your opinion, what's been the most egregious and the most telling, and not just in New York, but across the country?
What's most telling about it is, listen, this book, I'm immersed in it. By the way, it's not a history book and it's not a textbook. It's a book with anecdotes, and I interview people and scenes, and it's kind of funny. And I quote Larry Fink of BlackRock a lot about his ESG, which is a woke investing style. I get into the nitty gritty of what happened at Budweiser with the Bill Mulvaney, the trans woman in the bubble bath, hawking a beer, Target and its pride displays that drove parents nuts. Disney gratuitously flicking in same-sex kissing scenes. I mean, it was so weird in these cartoons. Like, you'd be sitting there with your kid with a cartoon, there'd be two female characters, all of a sudden they're kissing. I mean, whoever thought of that, right? What I found what was most sort of crazy about this is why they thought this would sell, right? I mean, this is not like middle America is not woke. And I'm talking about, like, this cuts across racial lines. I mean, most people are, generally moderate. They don't like being proselytized about sex. Again, cross racial, ethnic lines. The whole trans issue. I think most people feel like if you're an adult, you want to do that, fine. Sort of advocating it for kids is which is where some of these companies went. Is like crazy. I just, the fact that they went there, is to me the biggest revelation in the book. And then they thought, and the fact that they didn't think there would be a backlash, which is the last quarter of the book, how it's changing because of this backlash, was the biggest thing for me. But remember, no revolutions occur overnight. I mean, communism seems like, if you were, right now we sit there like, who would want to be a communist? Who would want to install a communist dictatorship at a country? It leads to food shortages and famines. And this occurred throughout history, throughout Russia, when it made its transition to that sort of authoritarian managed economy. It happened in China. You go down the list. Pol Pot had killed 1 million people out of relatively few millions that lived in Cambodia to create a collectivized society. This stuff just, who want to go there? But it does happen. And it happens slowly. It happens with ideas, slowly, with activists. And then it catches on. How did the Salem witch trials happen? I mean, there's something weird about human nature. And I get into that in the book, how this slowly started to seep in.
Charlie.
How, what did von Hayek said? The road to serfdom is paved with good intentions.
Yes.
I mean,
Charlie.
Stuff sounds good, but in practice, it's not good.
Who is the biggest woke company left, or the top two? Is it General Motors? Who is it?
I don't know, because they're all running away from it. They all might come back and embrace it, but it's, I would say Disney, but even that, they're going on woke.
And Cox?
No.
That's Fox.
I was just going to ask you, what's happening with the real economy? You're going from a low growth in the first quarter. Now it's been revised to 3% growth in the second quarter, and the Fed's going to cut interest rates. What's going on?
I mean, I don't know, Ed. I mean, listen, they keep revising down the employment numbers, which is a freaky thing, right? I think that's why the Fed's gonna cut. They're going to cut rates as housing prices still are at sort of record highs, right? I mean, and housing should be part of inflation, right? Should be part of the inflation dynamic, even though it's not necessarily part of CPI. We have a really strange economy, and I don't think you could divorce some of the corporate stuff, wokeness, from this. I mean, we literally created. Okay, so we printed lots of money, unprecedented amounts. We flood after COVID, in particular. We spent a lot on the fiscal side. And you literally had an investment technique. So there's all this money out there chasing goods. You literally had an investment technique known as environmental social governance. And I point this out in the book. That's all about reducing the supply of goods because it's bad for the environment. Oil companies can't drill as much. People produce as much. We have to become less productive to save the economy. That's what that investment that technique did, and it was employed by all the big investment firms. BlackRock controls $10 trillion. Vanguard controls $9 trillion. State Street controls $5 trillion. They all used it. So you have this weird thing where the supply side of the economy was wickedly constrained while money is being printed at astronomical levels. So it's hard to sort of figure out with normal policy tools what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it is such a confusing time. Charlie Gasparino, go woke, go broke. It is so timely. Thank you, Charlie.
Have a great weekend if we don't talk.
You got it, guys. Thank you.